give you guys a few minutes for anybody that might be joining us. My name is Alyssa. I'm an Airlie Gardens educator, and we are out here in our pollinator garden. So I'll give you a few minutes, see if anybody joins us. If we're out here in our pollinator garden, throw me some guesses in the comments about what you think we might be talking about today. Actually, I'll have Sarah kind of come closer to this plant behind me. You can check out some of the animals that are cruising around it right now. This plant is called Rattlesnake Master, and right now you're going to see a lot of different species of butterflies, like this tiger swallowtail, also North Carolina's state butterfly. Lots of different species of bees, lots of different species of wasps and flies. But guess what? We are talking about none of those today. We're actually going to focus a lot on one of our nighttime pollinators. Which, if you have any guesses about our nighttime pollinators and who that might be, throw it in the comments. We're going to walk over here and check out one of these plants that's getting eaten right now. All right, so we are over here with our yellow indigo, our yellow wild indigo. And this plant is actually getting eaten away right now. And this plant is getting eaten away by actually a species of moth. So it is National Moth Week, and we are going to focus on our moths. They are extremely closely related, of course, to our butterflies. They are in the same order, which is Lepidoptera. And but there's some very distinct differences. They go through the same life cycle that our butterflies go through. So our butterflies and moths both go through a metamorphosis. So you are looking at the caterpillar or the larval stage of the moth here, which is called a broom moth. And this moth is feeding very particularly on the foliage of this yellow wild indigo plant. So just eating away at these leaves. And so all of our butterflies and our moths, they start out their life cycle as an egg. Out of that egg comes a caterpillar. Those caterpillars are going to eat the foliage of a lot of plants, or also known as their host plants. And then they're going to move to the next stage of their life, which is their pupa stage. So here is one of the major differences that we see between a butterfly and a moth, and it is in their pupa stage. Does anybody know the difference between a butterfly's pupa and a moth pupa stage? You can shout it out in the comments. While you're thinking about that, out of that pupa stage comes either the adult butterfly or the adult moth. Neither of those guys grow any more after they come out of that pupa stage, and that's the size they're going to be. So there's either going to be little moths or little butterflies, or big moths and big butterflies. So for our moth, they actually build something which is a cocoon, and I have an example right here, and you can actually see it in our broom moths. All of our caterpillars are going to use silk to build their cocoon. So actually this outer portion of the cocoon is made with silk, and they're going to bring in some of the foliage, whether it's leaves or mulch or kind of anything that's surrounding them, to build this protective layer. So essentially what you're seeing is the outer protective layer, and then the actual pupa is inside of this cocoon. So it's protected, and if I were to drop this on the ground, I think it's a little bit more difficult to find. So of course it camouflages really well on the ground. So cocoons are going to lay flat most of the time, either on the ground or tucked under a plant or on a branch. So these cocoons are really good at staying camouflage. Now in their adult stages, I'm going to have you guys kind of guess. Would this be a moth or a butterfly? You could take your guesses in the comments if you like. And then, how about this guy? Moth or an ant or a butterfly? All right. A lot of people get our moths and our butterflies often confused. And there are some major differences. Not every moth is going to be brown in color. So this is actually our moth right here. This is a rosy maple moth. And then this guy right here, so not every butterfly is going to be brightly colored. This is actually a dusky wing. So depending on the species of butterfly and moth, you're going to have a variance of colors. And actually there's over 160 different species of moths around the world compared to only 17,500 species of butterflies. So there's actually way more moths in the world. And another big difference for these guys is the time that they come out. So if we're thinking about our moths versus our butterflies, our moths, what time of day are they usually most active? You can throw that out in the comments if anybody's out there watching us. Usually these guys are going to be more active at night. So our moths are considered more nocturnal. So a lot of times when you see something flying around during the day, that's going to be a butterfly versus something that's flying around at night, which is a moth. With our moths, there's also another huge difference, and that's this right here. So two different little faces. One is a butterfly and one is a moth. All right? Because our moths are more active at night, they actually have these much wider, featherier antennas. They actually do look like feathers compared to our butterflies who have these long, skinny, and club-shaped antennas. So that's actually a huge difference between these two animals, although very closely related. Our moths are really important. They're a lot of times much less well known, and that's because people are thinking about them more as a small brown animal that's flying around their lights at night, but there's actually tons of species and they are really important to conserve. So when you're planting a pollinator garden, thinking about animals such as moths or the moth larva that's going to be using them as well is also very important. So lots of different species out there that are going to be using these plants besides just your butterflies and your bees. So these spaces and habitats are really important to conserve for all of these animals. There are plants out there that need our nighttime pollinators, and our nighttime pollinators are our moths. And so when they're moving around at the night, they're actually providing a ton of food sources as well for our different birds and also bats. So the adaptations that a lot of our moths have, besides their camouflage, can be different sounds that they may push off, like a tiger moth, to actually disrupt our bats from finding them and being prey. So butterflies, moths, and a lot of our animals in Lepidoptera provide huge food resources, but they also provide a huge benefit to us, which of course is our pollination. All right, I encourage you guys to come out and visit our pollinator garden, see all of the things that you might find out here, whether it's caterpillars or eggs or bees or flies. All of those guys hold a huge importance. And if you have any questions, throw them out in the comments and we will see you next week.